Hello, I will be presenting my chapter on Sandel's Justice book. I was assigned Chapter 7, Part 1 on affirmative action. Affirmative action is defined as the practice or policy of favoring individuals belonging to groups known to have been discriminated against previously, such as minority groups in America. It is a system put in place that helps minority groups get ahead in society. There have been many cases that dispute affirmative action and say that it is wrong or that it is a way to put members of society who haven't done anything wrong at a lower position. One of these cases is Cheryl Hopwood's case against University of Texas Law School. She was denied admission even though she had average test scores. Meanwhile, Hispanic and Black students were admitted into the school who had similar or practically the same test results. This brings up the question of, is it unjust to consider race and ethnicity as factors in hiring or university admissions? In Hopwood's case, the dean of the law school ended up saying, "Law in a civil society depends overwhelmingly on the willingness of society to accept its judgment. It becomes harder to achieve that if we don't see members of all groups playing roles in the administration of justice." So UT Law's take on the case was that it was more beneficial to have minority students in the law school because that would lead to them having better representation in law practices in the future. So one of the reasons for affirmative action is the testing gap that is in existence between race groups. It is a bias in standard tests such as the ACT, SAT, GRE, and LSAT even. This over here is a graph of test scores. I can move my screen so you can see it. It just shows the gap between the SAT math score and races that score particularly well on it. And the testing gap affects many people who you wouldn't think it would, including Martin Luther King Jr. He scored below average on the verbal test for the GRE, but was admitted anyway to the School of Religion at Boston University, and he became one of the greatest speakers in American history by being given that chance. Now, when you're talking about the testing gap, you also have to take into account the weight of tests depending on the students taking them. A 700 score from a poor student in a rural community going to poor public schools is worth more than a score of 700 from a wealthy student who attends a private university and has taken many SAT prep classes and things like that. So another reason for affirmative action is the idea of compensating for past wrongs, which could be seen as a form of reparations for racism and slavery and everything that the white population of America has gotten wrong in our history. It's saying that minority students should be given preference to make up for a history of discrimination that has placed them at an unfair disadvantage. So it's making up for the systematic racism that is still in place today. It does not always work because those who benefit are not necessarily those who suffered. Those who pay the compensation are not responsible for the wrongs being rectified most of the time. So it's not doing a good enough job of making sure that the people who are being advanced in society are the people who deserve to be. It should be based on class, in my opinion, instead of race, just to make sure that everything is going well. This brings up the question, do we incur obligations only as individuals, or do some obligations claim us as members of communities with historic identities? So should the white population feel like they should do something to help raise up the Black community or the Hispanic community because of things that have happened in the past, or should that be forgotten because that was not something that someone today directly attributed to? So a general, what advocates for affirmative action use to promote it is, one of them is promoting diversity. So it's an argument in the name of the common good by treating admission less as a reward and more of a way to advance society. It enables students to learn from one another by holding that a racially mixed student body is desirable, and also promotes diversity at the professional level. Objections say that it could do more harm than good, though, by damaging self-esteem of minority students, increasing racial consciousness on all sides, and heightening racial tension. Sorry, I'll move my screen again. So this all brings up the question of, do racial preferences violate rights? Strictly speaking, on the college level, it's hard to narrow down which rights could be being violated. Courts dealing with a case surrounding affirmative action must decide if it violates the Constitution's guarantee of equal protection of the laws. But what rights are being infringed upon exactly? No applicant has a right that the university define its mission and design its admissions policy in a way that favors any particular set of qualities. So no one student can say, oh, I want to be only judged because of my academics, or I only want to be judged because of my volunteer service. Colleges don't look exclusively at academic success alone. They take everything into account based on leadership, personality, extenuating circumstances, and the applicant must fit within a university's mission to be able to be accepted into that school. There is no moral right to be admitted, so there's not a right being violated when you are rejected from a school. This is just saying that admission is not an honor bestowed to, admission is not an honor bestowed to reward superior merit or virtue. It's saying that no student deserves anything. So the questions that I came up with from this chapter were, is it unjust to consider race and ethnicity as factors in hiring or university admissions? Do we incur obligations only as individuals, or do some obligations claim us as members of communities with historic identities? And should universities consider applicants based on academic merit alone? And that is it for my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and this chapter was very interesting. I hadn't learned that much about affirmative action beforehand, and I think that it was very beneficial, and I will end up reading the rest of the chapter as well. Thank you.